Alright, this is going to be a trade recap for Monday, June 22nd, 2026. So looking at the pre-market plan to start. Alright, so price is in this pretty controlled balance range right here. Between this low volume node that formed last week on this day, I believe this was 617. Left behind low volume here, which is now being support for this balance range, and to the upside there was our main resistance level at 7583, holding as resistance. So the game plan today was all based around this area. If we stayed within it, I'm looking for mean reversions. Since price was opening near the highs, my first two setups I was mainly watching was a breakout with aggression of this balance to then pull back and hold for upside continuation and a trending type of move. And then if price could reject here, if sellers came in, I would then be looking for shorts to target somewhere in the middle of this range for the likely mean reverting move. So first, let's look at this scenario one. That's the first type of trade I took today. Alright, so my first entry came at 941. So 7583 is our key level. You can see we break it here at open. I'm looking for an entry here on this pullback. But what happens is we pull back all the way to 7.6, so we're kind of rejecting that 8.3 level now, and there was a valid upside continuation setup here with a low volume node holding and absorbing sellers, but I wanted to be super cautious and only take A+ setups. So since the context of now being below this 8.3 level right here, I didn't feel comfortable enough taking that, even though of course it ripped and was one of the better setups on the day. So we then break that original high we make. We're now above 8.3 again, and this is where I get my first entry long on a shag, sharp aggressive pullback setup into a delta level. And we'll look at this trade real quick. It honestly was not the best trade ever. Not one I'm looking to replicate, and I'll tell you why. So key level on this type of setup, this type of continuation setup, you're looking for either a low volume node to be retested or a heavy delta area. So my area right here that I was looking for, I kind of said it was a heavy delta area, which yes, you can see there's heavier buying delta here, but it's not an outlier. You know, there's heavier delta right here, there's heavy selling delta right here, there's more heavy buying delta right here, so it's not anything really significant. What I really should have been more patient for, and this was my original watch, was this low volume node right here. So I ended up getting stopped out pretty quickly, losing 4.25 points on that within the same minute. So honestly, not the best trade ever. Should have been more patient for better entry location and confirmation. Now, I will say the context was looking really good. We had a strong aggressive break of this 7583 level. But it was definitely jumping the gun a little bit. So it started off not on the right foot. You can see 93.75 to 89.5. That's 4.25 points loss. So I get in my next trade at 950 at almost 10 minutes later. This time we end up pulling back into that low volume node I was talking about. I was looking for another entry here. I didn't get it. And then, of course, that same area that I passed up on because the context wasn't there did end up holding for another rip. But like I said, being within the zone, back within the 8.3s, this key level right here, I couldn't look to long down here. I needed to be long above that 8.3 level. And it's just unfortunate the way the market played out today. But we get a rally, we get back above that level, we get another pullback. And this is a better pullback. Look how aggressive sellers are. They get exhausted down here. Get a nice rally, small retest, and I get a nice entry here on buying coming in. This trade I was in for 4 minutes, so didn't lose as fast, but still did not get a ton of run up, honestly. It was only up a few points at the most before stopping out for 5.5 points. I know it's a lot. It was originally a 5-point risk, and I got caught with 2 ticks of slippage. But I mean, yeah, that just sucks. That's a pretty hard hitting loss. But one thing I forgot to mention about this trade was it was a sharp aggressive pullback, shag setup. There's that pullback into a heavy delta area. This one was a little bit better of a delta area. As you can see on this big trade screen, we had that negative delta here. And then on the actual level, you can see these two larger buying deltas. However, like I said on the last trade, it's not a huge outlier. So this is going to be, the context is there. You can see it's breaking above this level. So when I go to journal this, it's going to be A+ on context and overall location, but confirmation and entry signal, it's definitely going to take a hit. These are probably going to be 7 or 8 out of 10s on my scoreboard. So we take 2 more trades. Still going with that first scenario. Watching 7583 above. I want to look for longs. So I lose that setup. And then we have my second type of continuation setup, which is called a CFR. It means consolidation. Then failed break, then reversal. Learned from Matt Owen, the GOAT. So we'll look at this setup. So this is where I previously got in and then lost here at 954. But what this formed was a nice little consolidation area after a rally. So get that rally, then a consolidation. Now that consolidation broke, but it acted like a failed break. As you can see, strong buying quickly reclaimed back into that zone. And then on this little pullback, I saw exhaustion, which is kind of like a high or low setup type entry signal, and I got in on that strong buying. If we look at this picture, you can see that consolidation after this rally. And the key here is you can see all that buying coming in on this reclaim of the level. This is a really good setup. Same context and location above this breakout level. And I get in. I move my stop pretty quick from, this was finally a lower risk setup. I was risking 3.5 points, and I quickly moved it to just 2 points. And it almost got taken multiple times down here. I believe it was at the 90s. So this was like 2 ticks away from getting taken right here. But then we finally moved up, broke high of day, hit 2R, 7599 right here. That's my 2R hit. And I didn't take it. I wanted my first target. I wrote between 2 and 3R. So I got a little greedy, wanted to see more. Probably after being down 0 for 2 on the day, I wanted to see this really rip and get a home run out of it. But I get greedy, I don't scale out anything, and then I end up hitting my reduced risk stop loss right there after being in the trade for 16 minutes. So that one would have been real nice to trail out half 2R, then the other half at break even on this candle. I didn't do it. Something to learn from and something to work on going forward. And at this point, I'm super close to my max loss on the day. I believe I was about $25 away from it, down like $128. Max loss currently is $150. So I'm pretty much ready to throw in the towel, but I'm still watching the market. At this point in the day, looking at this action, I see a clear intraday balance. So when we get down to this level, I am watching for a potential long setup. And I get some confirmation, but I never get a full entry signal down here, which leads me to not ending up taking the trade. And then selling starts to get super aggressive, so I start to resort back from this number 2 for my pre-market scenario. It didn't happen exactly as you would have liked to see it. If it would have happened ideally, we would have rejected this A3 level at open and sold off immediately. But you can see multiple breakouts of this A3 level. Failing, yes, we got about 15, 16 points of max run up above it, but every time it failed, and then on this time, it really failed hard. We didn't bounce at this low of day area, low of day support. So at this point, we're back under the A3 area. We failed to bounce at what could be a balance, intraday balance low level. This aggressive selling is coming in. At this point, I'm thinking, all right, we're going to mean revert. On an intraday perspective, I'm taking this more as a continuation setup with the type of confirmations I'm looking for. But overall, it is a mean reversion setup. We failed to break out of this high. Price is now hanging out down here just below this resistance. So I'm looking for an intraday continuation to do this higher time mean reversion just into this level in here. But as you can see, price did go all the way down to that low volume node where it's currently bouncing, which was scenario 3 on my pre-market plan. Bounce out of 529, 505, or we bounce out of 527. It's a pretty good bounce. I honestly haven't even been watching that, so I'm done for the day. But we'll get into that final trade real quick. Apologize, this video is going a little bit longer than expected. But you can see low volume node formed here on that break. You can also see it here. This level up here was a previous level I was watching from when I was looking for the market to bounce. You can see low volume node on this profile, better seen on this profile. And the same setup I was originally watching for on the long side. It's called a shag, sharp aggressive pullback. We get that sharp aggressive pullback. I don't get an entry yet. We get a bunch of jumbo, mumbo mess in here, real quick up and downs. And then this was key. Another aggressive pullback into this low volume node. You can see clear buyer absorption there. That's what you want to see. On continuations, I like to get in on absorption. On reversals, I like to get in on exhaustion. Ideally, they can be interchangeable, but that's ideal. So we get that absorption, more selling starts to load in. I get my entry down here. You can see this further confirms it. Large selling coming in after my entry. I got in up here at 7-1. And yeah, you can see when I get in, we're just below this level, and I'm just looking for a move pretty much into this midpoint of the balance. But as I showed you previously, price did end up coming all the way down into there. We'll look at my entry on that, 7-1. First scale out was 2R for 9 points. I was risking 4.5 points on this. And then second scale, I was able to trail for an extra 6 points, bringing my average down 3 points total on the trade. So was able to snag 12 points on that for 2.67 RR. Ending the day down $13 because of commissions, but up a single tick, made 0.25 points today, and I'm ending at 0 RR. So very, very good risk management. Was able to make everything back from 3 lost trades in one trade. Definitely lost a little bit more than I'm used to on the second trade. And this third trade should have honestly been like a 3.5 point gainer, taking one contract away at 7 and then another at break even. But I didn't. I was greedy. And there is a little bit to that. Like, if price was able to finally break above this level and go, there's a good chance it can really rally high. So I did want to be a little bit more patient with it and allow it to possibly trend and not cut myself early. But looking back, I wish I would have. And there's a double-edged sword. You're not going to be right every time when you make decisions like that. You just have to go with one side and trust yourself and not overreact if you're wrong or right. Just be at peace with your decision and know that trading is all about probabilities and about trusting your process rather than trying to force a particular outcome on the market. Your process is what leads you to consistency and making good decisions. Today was extremely hard for me. It was really hard losing these first 2 trades, then losing this one after it looked like it was going to win. I felt like a piece of crap, like I didn't know how to trade. And I could have, when I saw the first bit of confirmation here, the old me would have rushed into a setup and lost 2 more times, and I'm probably blowing my funded account. Instead, I stayed patient, reacted to the market. Like I said, my first watch was long here, but the way the market developed made me want to go short. So I went short, and I caught a nice move off of it. And yeah, we're here to see another day and ready to get back at it tomorrow. So that's going to be all for this one. I apologize for it being almost 15 minutes, but hopefully got some good content in there. So yeah, peace.